Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Red Path. It is Dara and Brian here with you again today, and we have another tournament report. I was thinking to myself, we've got so many of these going these days that we should probably make a mini series on it. So I'm going to call it the Skull Takers to highlight our champions of the world leaders as they come and go. And today we are talking to Brian about his recent GT, one of the first of the Pariah Nexus mission pack, the first for Brian anyway, and the first for a lot of other people. It was Battle for the Capital in Michigan, a 60 odd person GT last weekend, I believe. And two of Brian's games were on a live stream, round three and round four on Tabletop Alive, which are really good showcases of some very high level world leader plays. We won't spoil any results just yet, but they showcase a lot of Brian's really good thought process behind taking the world leaders to a high placement in the tournament. So without further ado, Brian, how are you today, and how are you feeling after a hell of a run?
I'm doing good, Dara. I'm actually feeling mentally quite well afterwards. Usually I'm like shot after a GT, but thankfully this GT was in my backyard. So it was nice being able to like battle for the capital. I got to go defend my capital from invaders, right? All the other people traveling around trying to get their GT wins. I got to sit here and kind of swat them away. So it was a little fun. Um, I'm really happy with how I did. I won't spoil too much, but you'll probably see it in the thumbnail. Um, it was a very fun GT. I enjoyed having a blast with all of my friends were there because right, it was my locals and then some, right? Um, I will say though, I was actually expecting my performance in this GT to be worse than it was prior.
Yeah, you went into this being like, oh, it's probably going to be like a 3-2 or something, because like it's a bit of a shark tank in your local, right? There's a lot of very high level players.
Oh yeah, I mean, Brad Chester's there, one of the best orc players in the world. Lyle Dixon's there. There's like I think 8 or 9 of the top 100 USA players were in that room. Cramped into 60 players, so that means like I'm going to run into like 3 of them, which did end up happening. I ran into 3 of them. Um, and that was pretty frightening because they're all fantastic players, all really good, really strong, and it's such a low player count too. Like 60 is still a big event, but for that density, there were a lot of sharks in the room. All of them with
Yeah, I mean,
a dozen GTs.
when you've
Yeah.
got a 60 person and like you're looking at 10 of the player pool being, really respectable players, that is, as you said, you're basically guaranteed to hit one. You're probably going to hit two. You might hit three. And yeah, you had a bit of a shark hunting run, I would say. How did you feel about like the run that you had?
I don't know why this always happens to me. Whoever ends up winning or like people that are like placing around me, they seem to have like one like final boss and they're like game five, which granted, yeah, it's game five, everybody's undefeated. But for me, like I placed really well, but I had to fight the placing. I had to fight third place, fourth place, eighth place, and then there was like 12th place. I fought all 4. Basically, their only losses were me. This happens every single event I go to. Getting tired of it. It's just makes I don't get to relax. Every game goes to time. It's needlessly stressful. Ugh. It's
Yeah,
just
you don't get the pleasure of that little seal clubbing ground or anything like that. But let's rip
no.
off the band-aid. So you went undefeated with the world leaders. You went
Correct.
4 wins, no losses, and one draw. One draw being your final round on the top tables. But the list that you brought to this event was, I suppose, it's like an iteration of the list that we talked about last week when we were reviewing new world leader lists for the Pariah Nexus. Why don't you break it down for us and tell us your thought process behind it? Obviously, a lot of the information is going to be in that video we did last week, but you can run us through the overall themes and let us know kind of what you were thinking about it.
Yeah, a lot of my thought process is explained in that video, and a little bit of it did change, and I can go over that right now. The list is Angron Invocatus. He got added back into the list. Glavemo, and then we have 20 Jackals, 2 10-mans. We have 10 Berserkers with the Glavemo and a Rhino. One squad of Spawn. 3 squads of 3 regular 8-bound. 1 squad of 6 Exalted 8-bound, and then a Carnivore on the side just to be spicy. I'm playing the Carnivore simply because I can't play more 8-bound. And I don't really feel comfortable playing multiple squads of 6-man 8-bound because I wanted to go for more MSU running all over the board, and I figured having 2 units is better than one big unit because I was already way lethal. Like I did not need to be like I didn't need to double down on the lethality. I definitely could get away with spreading out a bit more. Carnivore also has the benefits of being battle line, and it's very independent of advance and charge. Like you could argue the Mauler Fiend's better because it could be faster with advance and charge, but like on turns where you're not advance and charging, the Mauler Fiend can give you a little bit more flexibility. Basically, it's acting like it does, moving 14 inches versus the 10. So you're getting a little bit more distance out of it. The AP3 is really nice. Hitting on twos is really nice. And then the Havoc launcher being able to support from across the board is really nice.
Nothing like cramming
Um,
some indirect into the list, right?
yep.
I think the big talking point since we dropped that initial video, which did showcase the carnivore, and obviously now since, is a lot of people I've seen in various forums and online discussing, why the carny over the Mauler Fiend. Like, is it really better than the Mauler Fiend? But I think you highlight some of the key elements there. Is like, yeah, sure, the Mauler Fiend can be faster, which is maybe impactful for one turn of the game, but by and large, would you say that you found the carnivore to be a little bit more lethal, or as you said, kind of like independent? It didn't really need to be around other things to function as it should.
I found that carnivore to act. I've played both. I've played a lot of Mauler Fiends in events. With tank shock getting the hit that it did for a lot of the models that are good at tank shocking. It like that was the primary reason to play the Mauler Fiend is because you could advance and charge, sling up the board, and deal 6 mortal wounds on impact. Now that I've gotten a chance to play with both, I definitely actually value the Carnivore way more. It is faster. I took advantage of Pariah Nexus in particular with the mission rules, advance and action. I was like, oh, there's this objective 17 inches away, and I need to go do cleanse on it. Good thing I have a Carnivore that moves 14. It's battle line, it advanced, it actioned, which is awesome. Mauler Fiend cannot do that. So it just gives us a little bit more flexibility. Also, you don't have to worry about that 2-inch pivot, which is annoying. Um, the OC8 was also pretty relevant multiple times throughout the event too. Being able to just to slam it on an objective and say, yeah, you have a 5-man, like a jump intercessor squad. What are you gonna do? Like, you gonna come get it? Like, you gonna come charge it? No, you're not. This is just my objective. A Mauler Fiend would lose that trade there. So yeah, I found the carnivore. I still think the argument is very close for which is better than the other, and I don't think it's going to really impact your game either way, doing one or the other. But I just liked the feeling of having the carnivore more.
Yeah, I think personally, I would lean towards the carnivore myself as well. Probably a lot of that is aesthetic because the carnivore looks dope and the Muller Fiend looks like a trash can. But we won't get too deep into that discussion. Let us know down below, what do you prefer. Obviously the correct answer is more 8-band, but we can't get any more of those in here.
Nope.
So let's jump into the actual tournament. Let's run through the rounds. What have you got in battle, or in not battle round one, but our tournament round one?
Yep. So tournament round one, I got paired into a very nice gentleman with a very well painted, unique, custom chapter army. He was just playing basic Space Marines, Gladys Task Force. His name is Jacob. Fantastic guy. Unfortunately, he didn't have too many reps into World Eaters. It's a GT. Usually your first game, you can get you're like that density of players. There's a very high chance that I was going to get paired into a very good player. But that didn't end up happening. Jacob's still a fantastic guy. He's still learning the game, getting used to it, and it kind of just did what World Leaders do. I warned him about my threat ranges. He pushed into the middle of the board turn one. He got turn one charged by my whole army. And I think I have a picture of that game, and that's the aftermath of that. Carnivore ran up, one shot an Invictus Dreadnought, one of the I call them baby carriers. Uh, one shot that. Angron went up and one shot a Ballistus turn one. All 18 8-bound made their charge turn one. Um, or
Just
15
one
8
of
bound.
those days, right?
It
Just
was
one
one
of
of those
those
days,
days.
and I was like, hey man, if they sold beers here, I'd buy you one. But we and I was after the game and even during the game, we kind of set some stuff back up, and I actually helped coach him about like, hey, here's some cool things you can do to mitigate world leaders. Here's some cool stratagems you can use, like tax and stuff. And we still filled the time, but the game was just a knowledge check that he wasn't experienced against world leaders.
Yeah, I mean, you have that, right? Sometimes you play people who just don't have the reps and maybe don't have an innate understanding of exactly how lethal and fast the army can be, and it kind of just results in situations like that, which, you know, um, those sometimes do be the game. So round one, pretty strong opening.
Just a straight 20-0.
Straight 20-0. Yeah.
And we are doing WTC scoring here, which is how I ended up getting that draw later. If you don't win by 5 points, it's considered a draw on WTC. So
Yeah.
going on to game two, we get paired into one of my buddies, Jason Jesse. He's a very good player. He used to be an Eldar pilot. He's since swapped over to Chaos Demons, and he was playing Triple Chungus with Scarbrand and some spicy angry demons on the side.
How
I
many
do have a
blood
few.
crushers?
Zero.
Oh, okay, cool.
Zero. He
Nice,
was
nice.
doing a skull, or he was doing the Bloodmaster or whatever the Lieutenant Bloodletter is, and then Skull Taker. So we had 20 Bloodletters, each with the respective characters, Scarbrand, a Renmaster, and then a whole load of Nurgle.
Cool.
Two Great Unclean Ones, and then Rodigus, some Plague Flies, and some Nurglings. Just kind of typical demon stuff. Um, he made a mistake that a lot of armies are capable of making, that are these uppy downy armies that rely on just jumping up and down and up and down and up and down. If you're playing against an aggressive army like World Eaters, Orcs, Space Wolves, do not take your aggressive pieces off the board turn one. As you'll see in some of the pictures that we're going to show here, I got first turn, and he started with every single Khorne demon off the board, and I shoved it straight down the middle. And three Great Unclean Ones cannot handle an entire World Eater army charging them turn one. I mean, I hit him with everything other than Mo. I threw the whole kitchen sink at him. And the only reason why I didn't throw Mo at him was because I needed Mo to take care of Scarbrand or Bloodletters with a heroic intervention later on to protect Angron, be Angron's bodyguard. Ended up pretty much taking both Great Unclean Ones down to like 3 wounds. I charged 2, like took both down to like 3 wounds. Fortunately, didn't kill either. Invocatus just picked up 3 plague drones by himself, which was like an insane spike, which was awesome to see. But his clapback just couldn't deal with what was in front of him, right? He killed like 3 total 8-bound models. And all of his Khorne demons were stuck in the air and couldn't come down to help their panicking friends that just could not deal with what was happening. And pretty much I tabled him. And then he got to deploy the other half of his army, which then got tabled again.
Yeah,
And at that
is that
point,
withholding of force, like if you can kind of basically break the army up into two halves and just, take it a piece at a time as you did there. I don't really know how you're gonna kind of come back from a situation like that. Like that's in a as you said, it is one of the blunders that maybe sometimes uppy downy players do make when they are playing into a super fast, aggressive melee army like that, where they can just pressure the crap out of whatever is on the table. Um, and it might be like a sort of a mistake that demon players might make sometimes, where they kind of fall into a certain play pattern with how their army operates, and they might think that it's like sort of agnostic to the opposition, which kind of isn't really the case when it comes to those
yeah.
speed melee.
And that's what he mentioned. He was like, I've only ever done this. Like, I usually always put the red guys in reserves. And I was like, yeah, World Eaters definitely break the mold for what would be a normal game. So, for all of our demon players out there, I know we have a few. I'm a demon player on the side too. Make sure you keep at least something punchy behind your 4-up Feel No Pain Great Unclean One, because it can still die. Just because it has a 4-up Feel No Pain doesn't mean it doesn't die. Angron will still walk up to it and do 35 damage.
Yeah,
Um,
pretty much.
so the game
So
was a 20-0.
another 20. Yeah,
Yep,
nice.
another 20-0. He just at that point he has nothing to score points. And WTC didn't really have an issue doing the 50-point differential. And yeah, demons are one of the better secret mission armies out there. But
Yeah.
Rodigus was his warlord, and Rodigus got clapped instantly. So
No,
that dream was
R.I.P.
dead.
the boy. Nice. I'm glad you can break the demon curse, which I'm still living in that hell, I guess.
I just don't know. I just don't know what it is. They just I like the demon matchup.
Yeah, it's everyone kind of has that matchup where they're like, I feel like I've worked this one out. I like this game, all that kind of stuff. Like I like the Blood Angels matchup. You don't particularly have as much of a fondness for it. Anyway, we digress. We'll move on to battle, or I keep saying battle round. Game 3. What have
Game
we
three.
got for the last one of day 1? So this one was on stream
Yep.
on Tabletop Live. I'll have the links down below if you guys want to go and watch the games. I strongly suggest you do. I watch both of Brian's games on stream, and I think they showcase a lot of really, really excellent play for the world leaders at a high level. And I would suggest paying particular attention to what Brian does in Battle Round 1 and 2 of both of those games, because it really sets up the pacing for the rest of the game in a way that kind of secures the victories. But how did this game go, Brent?
So this is game three. This was against Sean Martin, very good Gem City player. He's playing 14-13 War Dogs, the army, with a couple Nurglings and Plague Bears sprinkled on the side. Knights are a very polarizing matchup. On paper, role leaders are fantastic into them. Everything we have kills everything they have. On the flip side, everything they have kills everything we have much easier, right? Like a War Dog Brigand can look at a 3-man 8-bound squad, probably pick it up without blinking. A 8-bound squad should kill any armiger, but it is very easy to flub those rolls, miss sequence. Now suddenly you've damaged 4 knights, killed none, and you're going to get tabled in like 2 turns, and it feels like it's an awful matchup. So what I like to tell people in the Chaos Knight matchup is you want to set up a situation where you can comfortably kill 3, 4, 5 War Dogs in one go, and then look your opponent in the face and say, your turn. Like you want them to be on the back foot, them trying to catch up, because the odds that those War Dogs are going to be able to do enough damage to make up for the amount of damage you did to them is very low, because they're likely going to have their eyes glued to Angron. And if you're just making just about average or slightly above average 4-ups on those thermal spheres, game's actually quite easy. So in that turn 1, I put him between a rock and a hard place. I was like, I'm gonna shove all my stuff up as far as it safely can go, and I'm going to set up a bunch of potential heroic interventions. I'm going to give you a bunch of really hard charges. Like I'm going to let you go for a 9-inch charge, and I want to watch you fail it, right? Which I think he did end up failing one of them. And additionally, I took a squad of Chaos Spawn and Jackals and shoved them up in the middle very early onto objectives and said, come deal with this, or else I'm going to score. And now I have tempo on my side. He has to come deal with the Chaos Spawn. And he did, but I ended up being able to sticky the objective. So it was like, I'll pay, like for 5 points, I'll give up a squad of Spawn and a CP, right? And then I think that objective was sticky for the rest of the game. Same thing on the other side of the board. I had Jackals on a side objective, and I was like, you got to come get me off of this, or I'm just going to score 15 points with these Jackal squads. And he had secondaries that he needed to go do. And he raced over there and he obliterated the Jackal squad. I think there's like 2 models left, but he's trading a War Dog now for half a Jackal squad, which is fantastic for us. So again, I didn't really give up much turn 1. And then on my turn 2 clapback, I think I took 4 or 5 War Dogs. There's a really good play in there where I charged his Plague Bearers with Angron and the Exalted 8-bound. The Exalted 8-bound easily pick up the Plague Bearers, and then Angron piles into 2 War Dogs and claps both.
That was a beautiful play. Like when I saw you doing that, I was just like chef's kiss looking at my phone, you know. I was like, that is I could see you lining it up. I was like, I know exactly what you're gonna do, but I'm gonna be so happy when you do it. And I was. It was a beautiful thing. And honestly, it's stuff like that that I think people should dial in on and kind of be like, right, that's the sort of movement mechanics and charge mechanics that I should be trying to get out of my army. But yeah, so obviously a really powerful turn 2, and then his retaliation I thought was pretty decent actually. How did you kind of see that one playing out?
Yeah, and he turned all of his, like I said, he turned all of his guns onto Angron now. Every spear, every bullet he could put into him went into him. And in my brain, I'm like, yeah, Angron's dead, but he's done 350 points worth of damage already, right? Like, I don't care if he does nothing the rest of the game. We can only go up from here, because now he's just going to be a bullet sponge, and my horde of 8-bound are all going to be fine, and they're all going to get to just go. He did end up killing Angron. He wiped a couple 8-bound, and then he thoroughly damaged an Exalted 8-bound squad. And I also consigned the Exalted 8-bound squad to death. And honestly, he got pretty unfortunate with his rolling. I don't know if you saw the Stalker charging 2 Exalted 8-bound on his turn.
That was unfortunate.
Bouncing, and then the Exalted 8-bound just without buffs, without +1 to wound, without sustained, just clap with 8 attacks back and kill the War Dog.
Sometimes it does happen.
And I was like, oof. But the Stalker does only have 4 attacks, hits on 3s, wounds on, I think, 2s. But like, there's a lot of places for the dice rolls to not go good. I'm not a particular fan of the Stalker for that reason. Like, it just doesn't have the reliability or consistency to pull through, which opened the door for exactly what happened to happen. I definitely expected to lose at least one 8 pound there. But getting to keep both was probably what slammed the door in that game. Is that just he gave me a free war dog and I have some exalted 8 pound
You
morale.
think you think that slammed the door? I think what happened
Well, I
shortly
think
after
that
that is what slammed the door.
I think the door got slammed and then it got re-kicked back down.
Yeah.
Immediately after that, Engron did stand back up. I was very fortunate to get him back. I don't think I needed it at that point in the game.
No,
Like
I don't think so.
the game at that point was pretty far gone. Like Eve, if Angron didn't come back, he would have likely ended the game with 3 to 4 dogs on the table. I would have been tabled, but he would not have been able to actually play the game. I would score was probably well gone. It probably wouldn't have been a 20-0, probably closer to like a 17, 18. Angron did come back just for the memes. I'm sorry if you watch the chat. We peaked the mic screaming blood for the blood god. You can't hear that. It's just sounds of hell. Sorry for that.
I
Um,
liked it. I thought it was good. I'm sure Jamie was proud.
Yep, I got redemption for that. So the game wrapped up 20-0. If you want to see how to deal with Chaos Knights, go watch that video.
I think it's a
That
clinic in how to beat Chaos Knights, to be honest. I was like, yep, everything I'm seeing here is like, that's how you do it. That's how you beat them. I couldn't fault any of those plays. I like your Carnivore went on a little terror as well down one flank. He was just like, I'm just going to walk through some other small war dogs. He was having
yeah,
a great time.
he killed a brigand, and I was like, that's a trade up for me. I was like, that's a 170 point model. You did good, boy. And then he died promptly, but he almost lived. He died by 1 damage, and if he lived again, he just would have kept going. So I'd say in all 3 of those games that I played, the War Dog actually pulled its weight. Game 1, it one shot 2 dreadnoughts. Game 2, he cleaned up Scarbrand and dealt with some greater demons, and his Havoc launchers was terrorizing Bloodletters. And then now in Game 3, he was just another threat that Knights had to deal with. 5-up invuln. It was just multiple Knights had to try to focus on killing him, which is what you want.
Yeah, I really liked him. Okay, cool. So day one ends. You're 3-0. How you feeling facing into day two?
Oh, I'm actually feeling great. I invite all the boys over. Everybody I played, I invited over for beers, and we had a bonfire in the back, little campfire.
Oh, dude, that's
It's
awesome.
nice being in the
Yeah.
backyard. Like I tried to be as like open and friendly to all my opponents as I could, and had some of the boys over, and we were all having drinks and having a laugh. I mean, I went 20-0, 20-0, 20-0. I was really scared for the next day because I thought I knew who I was going to play, but ended up changing to someone else. We did Swiss pairing, so you actually know like first place second, third place fourth, and so forth for day two. But because of WTC scoring, they actually use battle points to pair us. So I thought I was going to be playing against my one of my rivals in the room, but I ended up playing one of my teammates for one of the local clubs that I play in. They're called the Moo Crew, hence the shirt. If you guys saw it, I'm sure you did. It's ridiculous and I love it.
I'm here for
Um,
it. This was a this was a game. I'm not gonna lie, Brian. I did not think you were gonna win this game. I really did not. After turn one, I was like, "Uh oh, no, this is gonna be bad." Why don't you tell us about this game?
yeah, so this was against Vanguard, and Vanguard Invasion, Tyranids, which in my opinion has always been the best Tyranid detachment. It's just very hard to. It's basically just playing Tyranid World Leaders. My opponent was playing 3 10-man bricks of Gene Stealers, which are Dev Wounds, Scouting, Hellspawn, whatever. They go where they want, and they're gonna mulch whatever they want. They one shot a War Dog Carnivore. Um, he also had just X-Crins, your typical good stuff, and 2 Molochs that he's now playing. Which in that detachment, you didn't get to see him do it, but in that detachment, you can uppy downy with them, and every time they come up, they just throw mortal wounds at your face, and he will do it every turn, 4 turns in a row. And with the Hive Tyrant sitting right there, being able to give -1 CP to all of those strats, like he's just basically just cheating almost, it feels like, for free. So that is one of the Tyranids actually but benefited a lot from the CP change because like every list was playing Hive Tyrants. And now them just getting to cherry pick within a 12-inch aura to just blow up in your face is pretty darn good. Um, Against a matchup like that in the high pressure matchups, you'll actually see me play way cagier than I normally play. I don't like playing melee matchups aggressively because I feel like it's very easy to go for a 6-inch charge that you need, fail it, and CP re-roll it and fail it and lose the game on the spot. I don't like playing roll leaders that way into other melee matchups because it just feels like you get robbed. And that happened to me in a GT previously. Like, I just don't like it. So I tend to play a lot cagier, a lot more spaced out, and I wait for my opponent to start making mistakes. And I gave his Gene Stealers a lot of routes to charge me turn one. I wanted him to come in, and I was giving myself opportunities to heroic intervene for free, or not for free, for 1 CP. And based on where the War Dog was set up, like I was almost hoping he'd charge the War Dog. And where the Exalted were set up, I was hoping he would, or the regular 8-pound, I was hoping he'd charge the regular 8-pound. Because one way or the other, I was going to heroic intervene into one of the Gene Stealer bricks. He can't kill all of those threats, and my threats will absolutely kill all of his Gene Stealers. So that was kind of my thought process behind the deployment. Mo ran up one side of the board, and I basically wanted him dodging wherever the exocrines could go. That's the only answer he has for Mo. Mo carried that game on his back. If you watch that, again, I set up more nightmarish heroic intervention plays. I string the berserkers out so that if he charges them, I can actually pile in multiple directions, which I end up doing. He tries to mitigate the fights first in heroic intervention by just charging with the throwaway lictor. He does not tag the Mo model itself because I intentionally hid Mo back a bit. And then I was able to basically pile in into his entire attacking like little wave there with that whole 10-man brick and completely neuter that wave. I killed 2 lictors and like a dozen Gene Stealers right off the bat with Mo. Threw up fight on death right before he got to do anything back. Because the fights first goes first, and now I fight on death across the whole army, and I'm like, come at me. Now my whole army's fighting on death. So I set up what would have been a disastrous looking turn into a very favorable one because I knew Mo could actually carry a lot of that weight with a heroic intervention. Now, being 1 CP, it's insane.
Yeah, you found that right. Like you said, a bunch of your games were like that 1 CP heroic, especially on Mo, feels very impactful, right?
Yep. And basically the same thing happens the next turn. Set up another heroic intervention play. Mo fights first. I mean, I take both Molochs with the Exalted 8-bound and regular 8-bound. And at that point, the trading is just off the cliff. Anything he has that can deal with Angron is dead, and Angron just gets to have a free game running around killing monsters.
Except for that one turn where he failed to kill an Exocrine, which was
Yeah,
embarrassing for him.
like it was like 8 hit rolls, and I needed 3s to wound.
You
3
got like
guarantees
two or
kills it, and I got
something.
2 out of the
Yeah.
8, and I was like, "Thanks, man, love you."
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't even have the CP to re-roll it. But
Oh
I think
man, I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is happening right now?"
yeah,
Like,
I was like, it was a little
yeah.
ridiculous.
I
But
think like for people who go and watch that game, seeing how you kind of climbed out of that situation, especially setting up that one specific move where Mo and the boys piled into so many different units, that is like such an important thing for world leader players to master, and particularly the use of throw once you kill something there to then throw up the fight on death. So the rest of your army has some sort of insurance policy for the rest of that battle round where you were being hit on multiple fronts across the board. That's the sort of thing that is going to make you flip a game from a potentially losing situation into a potentially winning situation because you came out of his turn with things looking more favorable than at the start of his turn, which is like
right.
not something that you typically see, right?
And yeah, and he even put me in gargoyle jail, and that sucked for a little bit. I was like, wow, this
Yeah,
sucks. He neutered my turn 1, but thankfully the War Dog being able to move 14 inches got him out to an objective to still tow it. So, um,
yeah, yeah. It was an
yeah,
awesome game. That was like I was scared watching that game. That's like the most nervous I felt watching a Warhammer game in a while.
and that yeah, because he was super fast and he could hit super hard. Ditto with me. His screen's better though because gargoyles are stupid. Um, and yeah, it was a really fun practice game. That's the second time I played pretty much against the exact same list from him. But any Tyranid players out there, please try it. That list is super cool. It
Yeah,
looks
that
super
list slaps.
fun.
I think Vanguard is going to be super popular. I know a lot of people are looking at it right now in my kind of local area. But we move on to game number 5. You're on the top table, undefeated. What have you got playing into you?
So currently I'm fighting for the crown, right? Whoever wins this game, me or my opponent will win the GT. And I get paired into one of my teammates from my local ITC club. Um, Randy Brigham. Poor dude had probably had food poisoning or something. He was not feeling good. And the only reason why he came to day two is because he thought he was going to play me, and he didn't end up not happening, but he still wanted to play me. So game five, we ended up getting paired into each other. Um, and he said the only reason why he was playing is just because he just trusted me, because we knew that we were both gonna go back and forth and be honest about our gameplay. And like I was gonna help him out too if he was missing obvious stuff because he wasn't feeling well. He was playing Warhorde Orcs. I actually helped coach him a little. I didn't coach him, but I helped push him towards that list before the event even started. I was like, hey, look, Bully Boys is still good, but kind of dead. Green Tide is still good, but kind of brain dead. How about we play something that's just a little bit more like got a little more tools in the kit? You get to play your like 8-man squig bomb of pig hell, and we had a good game. Um, it started with us basically trading trash. Gretchen and Jackals collided in the middle of the board because he didn't want to wall. I didn't want to advance and charge. So the first thing we did is just throw our trash at each other. Cleared all that. And then his turn two, I did throw 3 8-bound up to clear 10 boys, which they did handedly with no wall. Boys died like their paper. He responded by charging the 8 squigs and the beast boss into the 3 8-bound just to kill them in the middle of the board, staring at my entire army. And I'm like, I am looking
That's
at
a
like
vibe.
600 points in front of me.
Yeah, that is a vibe.
And he still doesn't have wall up. He didn't wall. Still held it back because he has 30 knobs and trucks hiding because he's basically like, the squigs are going to demand an answer, and that answer is going to be hefty. So I committed anger on. I was like, I'm going to anger on you. I'm going to +1 to wound. I am already wounding on 2s, but I +1 to wound already because orcs have access to -1 to wound, and I wanted to make sure I'm wounding on 2s. Attacking player has to announce first. So it was a waste on my part, but I could not be wounding on 2s there. I was full rerolling to hit with sustained, rerolling wounds. I only kill 4 pigs with Angron. He doesn't have a save. I hit and wound every single thing.
Oh, that's a bro moment.
Angron goes to his damage rolls and goes 1, 2, 1,
Yeah,
1, 2,
let's
2,
go,
and he's like,
Ron.
oh, 5-0 feel no pains. And I was like, this sucks. I hate it here. Angron kills 4
Oh,
pigs. Um, I do kind of push up a little bit more with like the benefit of having this many 8-bound squads is I use them actually as trading pieces now while
it's
being
nice,
backed
right?
up by more 8-bound squads. Like I'll throw a 3-man out and be like, come kill him. I got another 3-man behind it. What are you going to do? That's what happened. Same thing with the Carnivore. The Carnivore was there to back up. Like Invocatus went in to finish the rest of some Gretchen. Carnivore was backing it up. It's like, hey, if you want to commit 10 knobs to come kill Invocatus, go for it. I don't care. Um, Game was back and forth. It was actually dead even. The only thing is he was getting extend battle line and like secure no man's land, easy like 10 points turn one. I was not. I got like sabotage and garbage. And I think I had 3 secondary points scored by the end of turn two. And it was like pretty bad. Like I was getting all the really weird ones. Pariah still has them and you can still draw them in a bad order. Especially when you're like not wanting to commit, but you also need your like scoring pieces to be slamming into their screening pieces. So it got a little awkward. I got behind on the score and I actually picked a secret mission. At this point, Angron's dead, and I'm like, not for long. Like
No,
I did it.
no, you
I
did
did.
not.
I
No.
secret missioned for Angron to come. I secret missioned for Warlord on the home objective.
I
Angron's
hate
dead.
you. I
And
hate
every
you for
turn,
doing this.
I was just being a goblin. I was just like, every time I killed something, like, I'm rerolling 8 dice. I'm rerolling 8 dice. He didn't come back until literally top of turn 5, where he just deep striked on the back objective. And I was like, easy game, easy life, and
You
scored
did
like
not deserve
30.
that.
I
You.
did not.
Oh,
And
that is awful. I hate you for doing
because
that.
I scored a little bit of primary on turn 5, then I scored the 20 points from it, the secret mission, and then I scored like 8 points from the secondary, and I went from giving him the GT to oops, I guess Angron's back, put my hand out and shake for a draw, and then neither of us got the GT, and it ended up going down to the third place undefeated who got a pair down. So, and that ended up being Scott Ketchum, which is a very good friend of mine. Um, Playing Broken Sisters. Meanwhile, I'm in the Shark Tank, and it just both of us just sat there and we're like, wow, this just feels bad for both of us. Now neither of us gets it, but I'm like,
Still though,
it
that
was
is pretty
funny.
funny. I can't. We talked about that in the review, and I was like, no one's ever going to do that. And you fucking did it in the first GT you go to. I actually hate you so much for
I
that.
well, I was like, I'm so far behind on primary.
I mean,
Well,
it's fair. It's fair, but
neither
you
of
could
us
have
were
done
scoring.
any. You could have done the battle line secret mission, and it would have been a better choice.
No, my battle line were dead. I was like, I
No,
only have
fair
eight bound
enough.
on the board, like
Fair
because the
enough.
jackals all died instantly, and the berserker. Oh god, five knobs killed. Five knobs killed all 10 berserkers plus Mo.
Oh,
Uh,
that's not nice.
with
Yeah.
the Fional paint up, and it's like I can't. You can't -1 damage that because it's a fight on death. Is what he did it
Yeah.
with. So I was just super frustrated, but that's just. So I had no
Listen,
battle line
you're
left.
probably the first person at an actual like registered event to do the dumbass Angron Revive secret mission.
Don't do it, guys.
Don't,
If you're
don't. If
head,
you're gonna
don't.
take anything away, I'm so glad that game wasn't on stream. You're gonna give people ideas.
So my biggest advice for you guys is don't do it. I just did
Yeah,
it because it was funny and it was my buddy, and it worked out. And
and it
he
had
was
no
even
right
like,
to work out.
he was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I was like, I get good." And I was like, "Skill issue." And Gron came back, like
Just roll sixes, bro. It's easy.
so.
Awesome. So you draw that game, which
It
means
was
you finish 401.
401. Yeah,
Yeah.
I finished 73 to 70, so I did get the moral victory there.
Right. Okay.
Um,
So if it wasn't WTC scoring you in the event, I hate WTC scoring. But here we are. Anyway, you finished second instead, which is still like super insanely good. That is two GTs in a row where you've gone undefeated. How's it feeling? Like that's like this is easily the most success we've had, at all ever on the red path. Like this is insane, dude.
Well, I feel like I've hit my stride. I like I was not, and I'll say this now, I was not comfortable with my last list that I played. It was a panic list. It was I didn't know what to play. I was unfamiliar with WTC, and I just went with the safe option of what the internet told me to do. Um, this list, I really feel like I am comfortable with it. This is more my style. This is what I'm going to be playing until the end of time when the next data slate sends us back to the Shadow Realm because we dared cross the 50% threshold, right? Like be prepared for Favorite of Khorne to say you can never use it, but you still have to pay for it, like something like that.
Oh no, I'm just ready for them to like, do something dumb to heroic intervention because they're like, oh, we can't have like a combat universal stratagem be as good as Overwatch. Like that just doesn't work. It's like you can use Overwatch and you will use it in like 4 turns out of 5 of every single game you play if you're a gunline army, but heroic intervention? No, no, no. No. They're like watch them cap it, dude. Like they're gonna do something to heroic. I already know that it's gonna happen and I'm already annoyed about it because like I'm like, wow, this is an amazing tool to have in the box. It feels really fun. And I think you kind of think the same with it, right? Like it's an
Yeah.
awesome tech piece.
Imagine having Glaive Mo and Lusty Mo at the same time.
Why imagine when you can do?
I mean, it's the same guy. It's the same
Yeah,
guy. You can just it felt so good to do.
yeah,
Battle line, it mattered a couple times in this tournament. And when it did matter, it did score me like an extra 5, 10 points throughout the game. So I will say, like, don't skew your lists just because you want to shove more
yeah.
battle line in there. But more importantly, I'm seeing a lot of like no berserker lists or like no berserker lists with one jackal. Be careful because you can get secret missioned super, super, super
Yeah.
easily just by not having any battle line.
I think it's
So
like don't build for it, but also just be aware that we have like two of the best battle line units in the game. I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't go
and
too crazy into it, but
a
yeah,
lot of my friends were getting secret missioned throughout this event. A couple of them lost to secret missions. Be aware of what the secret missions are. Be aware of the signs of what your opponent's trying to do because they can pick it now. It's not random. And just be on top of that. They are common. They are good. They're probably too good right now, if I'm being honest. I'm not a fan of comeback mechanics like that,
yeah.
where it's like, it's
If you're
not
winning the
like,
game, you should win the game. You know?
right, like if they cap you at 90 points, most Warhammer games don't even get that high unless you're min-maxing already at a super high level or you're already just wrecking somebody. If you're in a dead even game and you're winning or you're losing by 1 point, you getting to have a secret mission is such a huge advantage, which isn't remotely even fair.
Yeah.
So I hope they do something about that. Just keep your eye on it. You can still play around it. It's still not like gonna be game breaking, but if you ignore it, you will lose games because of it.
Entirely fair, and I think entirely correct. Listen, it's been a wicked run, dude. You got anything to say before we close this one out?
World leaders are good guys. I think I can comfortably say with our last assessment is that they're one of the best armies in the meta right now. I think we are. I don't think we're a top dog, but I do think we are a 4-1 now pushing 5-0 army
Yeah.
fairly consistently. Like this weekend, we actually had multiple world leader players tear up the scene. We had a 5-1, a 4-1, and me at 4-0-1.
I also
So
believe it's the first time in a long time that we hit a weekly average of 50% win rate, which
yep,
is,
it's been like months. It's been like 6 months for that.
I'm not sure if we've hit it in 2024, is how long it's been. Which is awesome. Great to see things going well for the boys. Obviously, we've got a whole bunch of stuff coming up here in the Red Path. Hopefully, we will have a meta review of the last balance quarter whenever the meta dashboard gets updated. I'll be working on that for you. We will also be running through a Pariah Nexus Tournament Companion review at some point, possibly coming later this week. We'll see how the schedule is going. But yeah, lots of good stuff coming out on the Red Path. For now, though, this has been, I guess, the technically first episode of our new Skull Takers miniseries, however we want to call it. I will be backdating all the old episodes into this new playlist as well, so feel free to peruse those to your leisure. But for now, you know where to go if you want to support us. All the links are down below. Patreon is there if you want to get access to our competitive focus Discord, where you can plague Brian now that he's gone undefeated at 2 GTs in a row, meaning it wasn't luck. It might actually have something to do with skill, or it might have something to do with reviving Angron in a secret mission in the last turn of the game. Whatever about that, check out the Patreon. It's got lots of cool stuff there. And check out all our other good stuff, like our Discord and all the rest of our content. Drop us a like, comment, and subscribe. But until the next one, I've been Dara. This has been Brian. Stay healthy, stay safe, and kill, maim, burn.